Welcome to Ohio Mysteries. I'm Steve.
And I'm Paula. And we have been doing a podcast for nearly 4 years, sharing all kinds of diverse mysteries about the Buckeye State.
Now we are slowly but surely working to move our episodes over to YouTube.
So every other week, we'll give the full visual treatment to an episode. We did that last week. We'll give you another one next week.
And in between, you'll get what we're doing today, the audio of one of our shorter 10-minute mysteries. We'll throw in a few images too. Today, the 1823 disappearance of Sylvia Beach, a young woman who disappeared and whose rescue was complicated because she was deaf and mute. This was our first ever 10-minute mystery.
So picture it. It's a wild frontier with only a scattering of pioneers around. Your house is surrounded by fields and woods and dangerous animals. You get lost and you can't find your way home. But you can't speak, so you can't call out for help. And you're deaf, so you can't hear the people who are calling out for you.
Even though Ohio was very young, this was a huge story in its day. Hey, isn't there a grave in Wadsworth for her?
Oh yeah, a nearly 200-year-old marker, but no body. So, without further delay, Ohio Mysteries presents The Disappearance of Sylvia Beach.
And folks, if you enjoy these stories, please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future episodes.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Ohio Mysteries. This is our 10-minute mystery edition, a little slice of intrigue in the middle of your week. I'm your co-host, Steve Yoder, and with me is our storyteller and journalist, Paula Schleiss.
Hi, everybody.
So let me explain this to our listeners because this is a new thing for us, right?
Right.
There's a lot of mysteries out there worth sharing, but for a variety of reasons, they don't lend themselves to a full episode. In most cases, they are simply short on details, but definitely not short on curiosity. So let's not waste another second, Paula. What's today's story?
Well, I've got for you the disappearance of Sylvia Beach, arguably the greatest 19th century mystery in all of Northeast Ohio. Now, our story takes place in 1823, when Ohio was still a wild frontier and pretty much the western front of the United States. Abel and Roxy Beach wanted to be a part of this new state that had such great potential. So they packed up their family in Torrington, Connecticut, and made their way to Medina County, Ohio. Abel was a man of great mirthfulness and wit, according to his contemporaries. That's 19th century speak for saying he was amusing and had a great sense of humor. His wife, Roxy, was a woman of strong and active purpose. I don't know what that's shorthand for, but it sounds like a compliment. We do know that Roxy once confronted a bear that attacked the family's pig pen. She grabbed a rifle and put it down. That sounds like a strong and active purpose to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course, you couldn't be faint of heart if you were going to be a pioneer. Imagine the courage it took to relocate a family to the frontier where there were few roads, plenty of wild animals, and very harsh winters. I mean, there were no markers to assist travelers as they made their way through dense forests and marshy swamps.
And kind of thrilling and a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, you had to be made of tough stuff to be willing to do this. And you're right, have an adventurous heart. Well, Abel and Roxy Beach were joined on the trail to Ohio's Western Reserve by their 3 adult children. It is believed George, Sylvia, and Orlando Beach were all in their 20s when they made this journey. The family put down new roots in Wadsworth Township, where they cleared land for a farm and built a cabin of hand-hewn logs on what is today's Akron Road. That's about 1.5 miles east of the city of Wadsworth.
Oh, okay.
Abel and his son George built Wadsworth's first sawmill the very next year.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that was 1824 on a stream called Blocker's Run. It was a good career choice. Ohio was growing, and the area had forests filled with all kinds of useful hardwoods. Now, the Beach's only daughter, Sylvia, she had contracted scarlet fever as a child, and it left her deaf and mute, and it caused bouts of mental confusion. She occasionally strayed from home, and that might be exactly what happened. Reports vary. One says she was trailing behind her mother as they returned home from visiting a neighbor when her mother turned around to find Sylvia missing.
Because, visiting a neighbor was actually an adventure back then. Your neighbor could be maybe a mile away.
It was a long walk,
right.
Absolutely. Other reports say Sylvia, who's estimated to be about 23 at this time, simply left the cabin for some reason on her own and never returned. In either case, this happened on a cold and snowy March in 1824, and Roxy Beach was the first to notice her daughter's absence. Of course, she and the family briefly searched for her, but with Sylvia being deaf and mute, she'd be unable to hear or respond to their calls. They were going to need help, a lot of help, and help came. Back then, settlers used a blast of a horn to alert neighbors to emergencies, and as the blast was passed from one pioneer cabin to the next, men bearing hickory torches arrived to help. They searched what ground they could before darkness descended. There was a faint set of footprints leading southwest toward present-day Woodland and Highland avenues. But you can't really comb woods full of bears, wildcats, wolves, and rattlesnakes with a torch. They had to call off the search and wait till morning. And in the morning sun, the footprints melted. Meanwhile, couriers on horses raced to other area villages, and within the week, the call to arms had rippled far beyond the borders of Wadsworth Township. More than 400 men were assembled in the village center when Medina County Commissioner William Iles arrived to give them instructions. He told the men to fan out into a single line, 16 feet apart. The human chain stretched for more than a mile.
Wow.
Sylvia had been missing a week by now, and it was winter, and the threat of wild animals was very real. Iles clearly saw this as a recovery, not a rescue. Let no man shout, no horn blow, except to announce that she is found, Iles told them. Search around every log or brush heap with great care, for we only expect to find her lifeless body. And let each man remember his responsibility. This is not a bear hunt or a wolf hunt, but a search for a fellow lost creature. And may God give us success. Move forward. And at his command, the men systematically marched to Wilson's Corner and River Styx. One report said at River Styx, they found shreds of bloody cloth. But what lay ahead of the searchers was a 2-mile-wide swamp, and there was little hope of finding her or what was left of her. The search was ended. Advertisements were placed in area newspapers, including the Ohio Repository and the Cleveland Herald, seeking news of anyone finding a confused deaf woman or unidentified female remains. Nothing was reported back to the family. A month later, Commissioner Iles organized another search in the hopes of turning up remains for the family to bury. Once again, hundreds turned out, but nothing was found. The family symbolically buried her anyway. A marble tablet at Woodlawn Cemetery in Wadsworth reads, Sylvia, daughter of A&R Beach, lost in the woods April 17, 1824, and never found. While historians believe she vanished in March, the April date might have been a reference to that final search and the end of all hope. When weather eroded the original script on the gravestone, the community recarved it into the back of the monument. According to newspaper articles at the turn of the last century, a human skull was discovered near River Styx in 1900. Authorities at the time determined it belonged to a Caucasian woman. No other part of the skeleton was present, and there is no way of knowing whether it belonged to Sylvia. The disappearance of Sylvia Beach became one of the greatest mysteries in 19th century Northeast Ohio. Akron Beacon Journal history writer Mark J. Price recounted the plight of poor Sylvia for his column and found a writing by the Reverend Edward Brown, who was 9 when Sylvia disappeared. Reverend Brown wrote, "Never was a community more stirred in sympathy for a poor wanderer and the afflicted family." In 2014, as the city of Wadsworth's bicentennial approached, a couple Wadsworth residents decided to give Sylvia Beach a happy ending. Cartoonist Jeff Nicholas and Franklin Elementary Principal Roger Havens teamed up to produce the story of Sylvia Beach. It's a children's tale about a pioneer girl who wanders away from home, becomes lost in the woods, and never makes it back. But in their imagination, Sylvia ends up living in a cave with friendly bears.
Nice story. That was good.
I'm glad you enjoyed that.
That's it for today, folks. Come back next week for one of our longer episodes with the full video treatment.
And if you are into podcasts, be sure to look for Ohio Mysteries on your favorite podcast app, where we produce brand new stories every Sunday and Wednesday night.